talk about another name that's really had a surging price performance over the last few months, and that, of course, is Meta Platforms. And it was like the second they just sniffed the idea of maybe we'll move away from the metaverse ever so slightly by doing some layoffs and worrying about costs and talk a little bit more about our core business, the bleeding stopped.
Right, when they went back to being almost a social media company. I mean, what a concept, which is exactly what was their whole purpose back when Facebook was first obviously created. But we did get some news today from JPMorgan on this stock, and it was optimistic, no doubt. But I want to say that when you read this report, it gets less optimistic. So JPMorgan did say Meta is one of their top picks now into 2023. But following, they actually upgraded the shares back in December and are continuing to be more optimistic on this stock, which has rallied about 53% off its yearly lows. So not too shabby for a name that had been beaten down pretty badly in 2022. But this analyst at JPMorgan does believe Meta's top line should begin to stabilize, but added he would need to see greater cost cut efforts, a significant metaverse pullback, like you said, Alex, or revenue growth back to double digits to warrant a materially higher price target above his current 150. The analyst also said the online ad market does remain volatile in the fourth quarter, and his checks suggest early holiday ad spending was solid compared to what was pretty dampened expectations. However, December did slow and showed the typical end-of-year flush as marketers become increasingly cautious now into 2023. Plus, we got news today that Meta's platform's WhatsApp is being fined about 5.5 million euro. That converts to roughly 5.9 million US dollars in Ireland over breaches with the European Union's privacy laws, according to this commission that does operate in Ireland. But I almost have fatigue when it comes to some of these headlines and all of the different times we've seen, Meta, honestly, Alex, get sued for various reasons and various antitrust laws. I feel like it never actually ends up impacting the stock price very much. It never actually seems to matter. We see these headlines, shareholders, investors just shake it off.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that stuff. Obviously, they aren't really fixing the problems if these keep coming up. So I'm sure there'll be many more of those headlines down the line. We'll see ultimately where that goes. But in terms of trading this name and looking at this name from a standpoint as an investor or a trader, if you subscribe to that analyst's opinion and think that Meta is refocused, I mean, in the end, this company makes so much money off its core business. Even if it is slowing, it's still just incredible what they've been able to do. And if you're looking at that and you're optimistic and you see a name that's been beaten down, what I found really interesting is it's very comparable to Netflix in the sense that it was sort of range bound, and then it takes a leg lower around an earnings announcement or some type of news item. Then it's range bound, and then it takes another leg lower. And that's sort of been the theme over the year. And then the last 6 months or so, 3 months really, it's really turned around and started to begin its new ascent higher. And so we've talked about this with Netflix, that when you make those kind of very high velocity down moves that happen so quickly, it can often recover back to that point where it fell from quite quickly. There's not a lot of price activity in there from a technical standpoint to slow it down. But once you do get back up and you start bumping into the bottom of that former range, a lot of buyers maybe buy in there and all they want to do is break even. So they sell right when it gets there. That's the whole concept of technical analysis really, is supply and demand. And that's seen as potential overhead supply. And so that 150 mark, again, we're seeing things converge together. So this is the analyst price target, and it's also conveniently kind of where one of those former ranges was as well. So looking at someone who's maybe optimistic here, but kind of shooting for 150 is sort of maybe where this runs out of momentum in the event that it moves higher over the next couple months. Obviously, earnings can be an impact here, Jenny. Looking at buying a call calendar, so similar to what we looked at in Visa, but this one a little bit maybe perceived as higher probability. It's a little bit closer to where we're currently trading, and we have to spend a little bit more for that as well. So $1.50 debit means $150 in risk, not accounting for the transaction fees. And again, it's going to look exactly the same in terms of the risk profile. You're going to see a mountaintop chart or graph here that peaks at that 150 mark. So this is the bullish strategy that is using 150 as a target, can be customized to whatever the opinion may or may not be that an individual investor may or may not have.
Right, and Meta's price action, even on the day, now we're just right around intraday highs, up just over 2.5%. So its resiliency even today has been somewhat astounding. A name that it does feel like oftentimes that some of the bears in this name are on a bit of a witch hunt, I will say, Alex.